All right, I've got a couple big announcements for you guys. Number one, PFF's player prop tool is now available on the web for all PFF Plus subscribers. And number two, PFF Plus is 40% off right now. If you use the promo code Black Friday, you get all of the same data, grades, and analytics that all 32 NFL teams use, all 136 FBS teams use. As well, you get access to our 2026 NFL mock draft simulator, that world-class player prop tool that can help you nail all of your bets, and of course, the best fantasy football tools on the planet as well. Again, 40% off PFF Plus right now when you use the promo code Black Friday. All right, next up, we've got Miami at Virginia Tech, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. The storyline to know for Virginia Tech is, of course, James Franklin is the new head coach of the program. He will not be coaching, though, in this game, of course. But the storyline for me is Miami trying to stay alive in the ACC race right now. Even though Miami, most likely we'll see tonight, is the highest-ranked team in the ACC, they still need help in order to make it to the ACC title game. They've got to win out. They need SMU to lose at least once, and Pittsburgh has to beat Georgia Tech this week. We'll get to that game later on in the show for Miami to even have a shot at making the ACC title game. Before they can start scoreboard watching, though, they must take care of business this week on the road against a 3-7 Virginia Tech team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, and then I think the at-large case is very interesting with Miami when you look at how much the committee obviously respects them, especially I think their defense. And look, they lost two very close games to SMU in Louisville, but they have no room for error left. But you look at a potential at-large case, right? Maybe they need a Vanderbilt to lose to Kentucky or Tennessee. Maybe they need Utah to lose another game of BYU. But it's not like we're talking about things that are out of this world crazy. No. The problem is they have such a narrow road to winning the ACC, and we believe right now that the ACC is going to be a one-bid league. Miami needs a lot of help either way to get either into the ACC title game or to get an at-large playoff berth, but we'll see where the rankings have them tonight, too.
And we'll see that, too. And also, Dalton, I wouldn't put it past the committee, because they've done this before, to change their mind on where teams are ranked, and maybe at the end of the year, they put Miami over Notre Dame.
Well, this is the thing, is at least what they told us, I forget what the scenario was, but what they told us about that is if they're within 3 spots of each other, then they start thinking about it. So let's just say Notre Dame is number 9 and Miami's number 12. Well, now, or number 11, we start to think about some things going, you know what, Miami, and it was week 1, but head-to-head is head-to-head, and that's when they beat them. So, yep. I think Miami still has a lot to play for, and they can't let off the gas, and they have a huge game against Pitt next week, too, that we'll certainly have.
I would have Miami right now over Notre Dame. Would you?
I probably would. I think Notre Dame's resume doesn't speak to them being the, 8th or 9th best team. I think, look, the way that they're playing and the underneath metrics say, yeah, they're one of the best teams in the country. But at the end of the day, there's other teams, especially in the SEC, with better resumes, right? I think Oklahoma should jump them.
So,
I know you're in that boat. I think Alabama should stay ahead of them, right? So you're talking about then if they're number 10 and Miami can keep creeping up on them and Notre Dame's not going to pad it anymore with wins over Syracuse and Stanford, it's a weird case, and I've thought it was a weird case since the beginning, but Miami certainly still has at least a pulse in this thing.
Definitely. All right, let's get into the actual preview of the game, though. We'll get to the playoff discussion, of course, later on in the year. You have the Virginia Tech offense in this one. What should we know on Kyron Drones in that offense against Miami's ferocious defensive line?
Look, I look more so than about the defensive line, which we've given so much credit all year. Ruben Bay and Akeem Mesidor, those guys have been dominating all year, but I look at this matchup not just from a D-line perspective, but from Miami's secondary perspective and the way that Virginia Tech has struggled to throw the football. I have actually no idea how Virginia Tech's going to get a passing game going. Their number 2 receiver, Donovan Green, has left the program. He's not even with them anymore. So it's just Aiden Green out there at receiver by himself. And something we haven't talked about enough, as we've talked every week about how in the world are you going to block Miami? Well, the odds are you're probably not. And Virginia Tech's offensive line isn't great anyway. They make a lot of things happen on the ground after contact. But let's give credit to this Miami coverage unit. Last year, they were outside the top 60, I believe 67th in coverage grade. This year, they're 12th. They're 12th in yards per reception allowed. They're 12th in yards per coverage snap allowed. They're second. They've given up the second lowest explosive pass rate in the country. Is some of that the pass rush? Sure, but They had a really good pass rush last year, and the secondary let them down. You look at certain guys in the way they're playing right now. Jacoby Thomas with 2 interceptions last week. Xavier Lucas, Ethan O'Connor, a lot of new corners in there making things happen. Even through some injuries, Keontae Scott is done for the season, unfortunately. The great nickel that they had there. O.J. Federic has been hurt lately, but they've got depth and talent in this secondary that has been shutting people down on the back end too. They just don't give up big shots down the field. If you're going to beat Miami, you got to get rid of the football quickly. You got to get yards after catch, just like SMU and Louisville did. But Virginia Tech doesn't have really any weapons aside from Aiden Green on the outside. They look very one-dimensional in this matchup, and I'm worried if they have to drop back and throw the football on third down.
Yeah, Jacoby Thomas this past week had a 97.9 PFF grade. That's got to be one of the highest grades we've seen all year from a player in a game. That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get any better than that. And again, this year, what you have instead of last year, where it was so front heavy, Miami's back seven is finally matching the production their D line is giving them. That's why their defense has been even better this year than it was last year.
I want to talk about the Miami offensive line against Virginia Tech's pass rush in this one, because Carson Beck's been good this year. Miami has an incredible stable of weapons for him to throw to as well, but the Hurricanes' offensive line allows those guys to succeed in the first place. Right now, Miami has only allowed a pressure on 16.5% of dropbacks. That's easily the lowest rate in the country. I believe every other team in college football has at least a 20% pressure rate allowed this year. Miami's at 16.5% right now. And Carson Beck has taken advantage of those clean pockets. Right now, an 83.5% adjusted completion rate when kept clean is 6th among all quarterbacks in college football. But Virginia Tech will present a challenge, as you saw on the screen right there. They're 24th in team pass rush grade this year. They have a couple great defensive tackles in Cody Huseman and Kamari Copeland. They're 3rd and 6th among Power 4 D tackles this year in pass rush grade. Edge rusher Ben Bell is 6th in the ACC with an 82.9 pass rush grade. And it's important to note for this matchup, because if they can't get home on Carson Beck and force him to make quick throws in this game, their coverage unit right now has really struggled. Right now, the 4th worst coverage grade in the Power 4 this year at a 57 grade. So if they can't consistently pressure Carson Beck against one of the best offensive lines in college football, this will be a long day for Virginia Tech's defense. But if they can get Carson Beck under pressure consistently, they could pull off the upset here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think when you look at Miami's offense too, there's been times where they haven't been that explosive, but they might get some playmakers back this week. CJ Daniels appears ready to go after missing last week's game. Mark Fletcher has missed the last 2 games. Mario Cristobal says he's trending at least in the right direction. Not 100% sure that he's going to play, but that would really help them in the backfield with their run game. But you're right. If you don't get pressure on Carson Beck and he's comfortable back there, he can make all the throws right. He's accurate when he's clean. He's not so accurate when he's under pressure. Virginia Tech, if they can get pressure, then they'll be okay in this game on defense, but they have to, or otherwise their secondary is going to suffer. You've got Daniels coming back, and you've got Malachi Toney on the outside, who's absolutely special.
So will Miami stay alive in the ACC race and also college football playoff race, or will Virginia Tech pull off a massive upset?
No, I think they'll stay alive. I think there's too many flaws right now for Virginia Tech in the passing game on both sides of the ball. I think, and then you look at them being one-dimensional with the run game, but Miami with that defensive line, their run defense is really good as well. I like a solid defensive game here from Miami. I'm taking the Hurricanes 28-13. It's still on the road. There's still times where Miami's offense doesn't look that explosive, but I think they'll be okay in this one.
I have Miami winning by a bigger score, actually, than that. I have 38-14 Miami over Virginia Tech. I think Carson Beck, his offensive line will give him a lot of time in this game. He'll have plenty of chances to find their talented receivers like Malachi Toney and expose the Hokies' vulnerable secondary. And it's the opposite for Virginia Tech. Right now, they have a really struggling offensive line against that Miami defensive line. That's a bad matchup for the Hokies, too. So I think Miami will win in the trenches on both sides of the ball and blow out, I think, Virginia Tech in this one with a 38-14 final score. Although Virginia Tech's hopes for the future got a lot brighter when they hired James Franklin a couple days ago.